Hello, my friends, and I hope you're having a fantastic day. So I just sat through this new feats background species freaking character creation video that Dungeons and Dragons has out on their YouTube channel. Needless to say, I'm irritated to say the least. There are some things in there that I think at one point in my life or another I would have been happy to see, but for the most part, I think the thing that frustrates me the most is the way they have changed the entire tone of the game. They have taken away the ideas of making difficult choices and having to overcome certain weaknesses if you want certain goals, with the idea that, you know, anybody should be able to play anything. Which, I mean, I'm sure that's going to be great for them in making money. But for someone who's really looking for something to be really creative with, not so much in my opinion. Back in the day, humans used to be the race to pick. You know, if you wanted to be good at everything, you picked a human. And then the other races, because of their various specific bonuses to their ability scores, some would be better in one class or another. And of course, you have the really old days where the only way you could be a paladin is if you were a human. But we're not going to go that far back. And because of that, you had to be thoughtful about your choices. Yeah, it would be more difficult to run certain builds. But overall, you could still do it if you really wanted to. And for a lot of people, that kind of build is fun. I've seen people do it in all sorts of games beyond D&D. A friend of mine, when I used to play EverQuest 2, she built herself an ogre mage. And she was fucking great. Because, you know, she got all the bonus stuff that she needed. She had the battle skills down pat. So despite the fact that race and class combination should not go together, she still did fantastic. Yes, a caster of another race would have still probably done more damage, but she could also take more damage than a caster of another race. And the same thing was in D&D. You know, you might lose a little bit of power in your cast. You might lose a hit die or two, but you would be able to take more damage. And it was all about what you wanted to design. Of course, you know, we're in a world today where people are more interested in the current meta. What is the best build for this or the best build for that to optimize the numbers? Which, I mean, I haven't run into a lot in D&D. I know those people exist. I just thankfully haven't had to deal with them. They obviously exist all over the place in MMOs. But by making these characters, by making their races, because I'm not calling them species, I'm sorry. Realistically, and here's the thing that bothers me about this change. Realistically, calling them species is probably a more accurate term because they are different species for the most part. However, it's always been race. I'm sure I'll get somebody down in the comment telling me, well, you're just old, you need to change. It doesn't hurt anything. You know what? I don't care. I like the term race. I am not offended by something being called a race. If you are, you might want to look into that. But they've definitely made everything far more generic. Listening to this guy talk has been painful. And I won't subject you to it. You shouldn't have to. But he talks about, I want to talk about this picture first. The new character creation options. They've added more races, they've added more classes, they've added more backgrounds. They changed up what all that does. Fresh, new, high-quality art. I'm sorry, this art's shit. I will show you some more of it in a minute. But we've already seen some of it in yesterday's video. The art is shit. Give me something like this any day of the week. This is a fantastic piece of art. I don't know what this is. It's ugly. That's what it is. But more to the point, this last point here, more fun, fewer obstacles. Sometimes obstacles are a good thing. People will whine about gatekeeping and how you shouldn't try to keep people out. There should be base steps that you have to go through in order to get into something. And if you are not willing to take those steps, maybe you don't belong there. I get to you sitting out there watching Critical Role or something. You think, oh, wow, that looks fun. Not every D&D game is like Critical Role, nor should it be. Personally, their style is not for me. I like the storyline and everything, but I don't need a voice actor to be doing my DM shit. And I am not a voice actor. Thus, you won't see me be you won't see me doing any kind of voices when I'm playing D&D. Not unless I'm trying to torture you. I only got the one voice, I'm sorry. But the idea that they had to remove obstacles, and the obstacles really aren't obstacles. What they were just learning the rules. They have dumbed this down to the point that I don't want to say that anybody can do it, because realistically there are still going to be people who have problems, but they've really oversimplified it. So someone who prefers to think a little more or to have to make more choices isn't going to be happy. Now, I will say there are some changes I agree with. To some degree, I understand having a character's background influence their abilities more than their race. Yes, there are some basic racial traits that should definitely be part of your character, but at the same time, the life you lead will have more of an influence over the specific things you can do than how you were what you were born as. So I do like the idea of having, say, set bonuses for your race and then another set of bonuses for your background, if that's the direction of play you're going to go. I personally prefer being able to customize a little bit more. For example, in the D&D game we do with my friends, when we can, I have a ASMR rogue, and this is 3.5, so when I was building her abilities, when I was buying her skills is actually what I was doing, I carefully crafted those towards what I thought her role was going to be. So I got some charisma, I got a little bit of pickpocketing, I definitely went for traps and lookouts. She's a thoughtful merchant spy is basically what I'm going for. So I went with most of the charismatic stuff, some persuasion, some bluff, but also a lot of observational stuff, since, paying attention is going to be important to her. But while I may agree with that, the way they talk about it, I think, is what turns me off. Because he makes it seem as if your race isn't part of your background. I understand that race doesn't make up the entirety of a background, but it definitely has an influence on it. So the idea that you would start with what your character was doing in their life before you thought about what their race was makes no sense to me, because a lot of times that background's going to be influenced directly by the race. Some races are born in are born in specific areas with a very few exceptions. And while adventurers are typically those exceptions, most will be born in the one place, and that will be part of your background. Most will have a specific cultural heritage, and that's okay. That's a good thing. That should be reflected in the bonuses given by your race, not by your background. But if background's going to give you a couple bonuses, that doesn't bother me. It's the way they talk about it, more than anything. How smug they get about talking about how they've changed these things, like they've done somebody a great favor by removing this huge stumbling block of having to make the difficult choice of your race when you can just think about your background. And more importantly, they renamed it species because, that word is so problematic, race. Because the more you hide things from people, the less upset they get to them, or the less upset they get about them. They still get upset about them. That's the bad news. The fact that they think of character creation, of having to make choices, and having to deal with the loss of not being able to make certain choices as an obstacle, again, just echoes what they're trying to do. They are trying to bring the game to the largest common denominator, which we're talking Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro. Yeah, that's what they want. They don't care about, authenticity or fun even, or art or any of that. They care about making sure enough people might be interested in buying this that they can make their money. And when I tell you the art is awful, I mean it. The art is terrible. And for people who are so concerned about cultural appropriation, how is this not cultural appropriation? It's like they thought that D&D is about the most scenic stuff. Literally, D&D has been remade by the mean people, by the jocks and the snobs in high school. Apparently, when we were playing D&D in high school, this is the type of stuff they thought we were doing. And of course, they never bothered to learn otherwise. They never bothered to try to understand why we might enjoy difficult choices in our character creation, why I might struggle with the idea of what race to pair with my class, and then later struggle with the idea of, I only get so many feats, so which ones do I want to pick? The idea of having to think and plan these things out. I feel like they think if they lower the bar enough, they can get more people in and try to keep the others, the older people, still going with the idea that, these rules kind of suck, but at least I can adjust them for myself. Well, unfortunately, they've kind of destroyed that idea with trying to drive everybody to the website. And with their ridiculous prices. I mean, I can't justify paying those prices, especially not when I don't believe in the product. And with images like this, with this art like this, it's almost impossible to believe in the product. I can almost hear them typing the AI prompt as I look at this. And then they're adding new things such as, your Dragonborn, as they increase in level, they'll be able to fly at some point. I don't know if it's full flight or just vague up and down, but they mentioned being able to fly. Goliaths being tied more to giants. So, if you're a mist giant descendant, you'll be able to misty step away, taking away the actual choice, the meaningfulness of the choice that you make in choosing your god, for example, or in choosing your stuff for your ASMR. They're taking away choices, but they pretend to give you more. I take that back. What they're doing is they're taking away the consequences for your choices. They don't want these choices to have any consequences. And that's because they don't understand the point of the consequences. To give you a reason to build different things, to give you a reason to have 100 characters written down, and each one slightly different than the next. This feels like it's built for somebody who's going to build one character ever and then just play that character for the rest of their lives. I would hate to see what they've done to Resurrection. And there's just not one picture. Oh, well, at least in this one, her hand looks a little less blurry, but I'm going to be honest, it still looks fucked up and it's still AI. What we looked at, it was like $180 for this schlock for what they're doing. Now, I can't get behind it myself. And the only reason I'm even looking at this is because curiosity. I just wanted to know what they did to it. It's painful. It's annoying. It's sad. But it is what it is. And thankfully, I don't have to play it. I'll be curious to see how well it sells. I'll be curious to see what type of people play it. But here's the bright side of all this. Even if this sells well, it does nothing to me. I still have my books and I can still play the game I enjoy. I can still have my fun no matter how much other people like something that I feel has been bastardized beyond the point of all recognition. And if you are one of those people out there who are looking forward to this, I don't understand you. But I do hope you enjoy it because I don't know who you're going to play with. But unless they have people coming in to replace people like me who are leaving, they're not going to survive. And if you want me to be real about it, I don't think they're going to survive. I think this basically will be the nail in the coffin for D&D. I don't think it'll kill Wizards of the Coast as a whole, but I do think when this flops, that D&D is going to be shut down by them. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. You are not going to find me being one of those people who thinks it's a bad thing when things end. Everything ends eventually. The end of one thing is the beginning of another. Destruction is important to ecosystems and economics. Without one thing leaving, you tend to not have space for something new coming in. And I think there will be some new and exciting things going on. I know a number of people working on their own tabletop systems. I know that there are new tabletop systems out there to try right now. I've always wanted to do Call of Cthulhu. I've said that before. Someday I will find someone to do a Call of Cthulhu game for me. But until that day, there's nothing wrong with mourning what was lost. I know a lot of people will pop into the comments and say, well, it was already lost. What are you talking about? The last books I bought were the traditional 5e way back before they started doing a lot of this crap. And while I'm okay with 5e, it was never my cup of tea. I personally prefer 2. I am definitely a THACO person, but a lot of other people think that's a little too complicated. So I can understand why people would like 3.5 better. But I do feel that the consistent talking down to the audience, it's not good for anybody. We're all supposed to be smarter than this. Anyway, leave your thoughts down in the comments for me. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you enjoyed it. Please like, comment, subscribe, and turn on the notifications. If you really liked it, you can feel free to share it around, and I will catch you later.